But let's start with the main story that we are leading with, and it is that a 23-year-old Syrian asylum seeker has now been arrested on suspicion of stabbing several passers-by in southern Austria.
Yes, it appeared to be a frenzied attack, and it's left a 14-year-old boy dead and injured 4 or 5 others.
Yeah, indeed. 2 others are remaining in hospital, and the suspect, who is yet to be named, has since been arrested. Just for a little bit of context, it, of course, comes just a couple of days after an Afghan asylum seeker, a failed Afghan asylum seeker who was known to police, killed at least 2 people in Munich and injured several others by driving a car through a crowd of people. And it also comes, doesn't it, just a couple of days after J.D. Vance, the Vice President of the United States, warned Europe about this exact thing. So, Should we get the thoughts now of former police detective Peter Blexley? Peter, thank you very much for joining us, especially at this time in the morning on a Sunday. Always great to have you on. Your initial impression, really, I mean, I'll be honest with you about what mine was. Here we go again, Peter.
On a cold, hard mortuary slab lies the body of a 14-year-old child who was somebody's much-loved son, grandson, sibling, best friend in the world, classmate, and that young child will never be seen again. In neighbouring Germany, in another mortuary, lies the body of a young mother and her 2-year-old child. These people all killed, and many, many others seriously injured by horrendous, murdering monsters who, quite frankly, in my opinion, should not have been anywhere near Europe, but should have been back in the countries that they originated from.
Well, yeah, I mean, Peter, what do we do about this? You know, you've got European leaders saying they're getting tough on this. You've got European leaders saying, you know, we're going to restore control of the borders and everything. What faith do Europeans have that our leaders can actually get to grips with this issue?
I'm sick of the rhetoric, and I'm also deeply concerned because sources tell me that our courageous security services and counter-terrorism police are thwarting plots in the UK on an almost daily basis. We will be next, or we will be targeted for an attack like this very soon, I fear. And until we have politicians that grow a spine and turn the rhetoric into action, until we have a criminal justice system with courageous judges who will deport those who really should not be here, those with criminal convictions, those over whom we have reasonable reason to suggest they may be a threat. Until they are, quite frankly, and pardon my clumsy language, until they are rounded up, put on planes and deported, then this threat for us, all of us, is very real.
Well, look, Peter, I'm sure you, like many people, are getting deja vu, not simply because of what's happened a couple of days ago, but we all remember that period around 2016 and 2017 when Europe's floodgates first opened to a huge number of Syrian refugees. And what did we start seeing? Terror attack, terror attack, terror attack, terror attack. There was a period there where it really, really kicked off around Europe. And now, here we go again. There appears to be a bit of momentum behind this stuff. And let's be very clear about where we are at the minute, Peter, because this individual, were he in Britain and were he have to committed this attack in Britain, or were the Afghan from the other day to have committed this attack in Britain, we would have arrested them, we would try them in this country, we would put them in prison in this country, but we would still not be able to deport them, Peter. And that has to be wrong, surely.
Of course it's wrong. And that's because over recent years and decades, the lunatic left, the hand-wringing liberals, so many of whom pollute our criminal justice system, either as lawyers or judges, have allowed this system to be abused. They have stripped law enforcement and right-minded people of having any way in which to deport so many of these people who quite simply pose a threat, a risk to us all, to our loved ones, and should not be here. Our nation needs to grow a spine. Our politicians need to put us first.
And Peter, people are allowed to be angry about this. You know, yesterday we were talking about J.D. Vance Now, his speech at the Munich Security Conference didn't go down very well with some European leaders. You had Olaf Scholz saying that his comments were what did he say? He said they were unacceptable. Unacceptable. And others said he shouldn't be saying this sort of thing about Europe. But he highlighted that there's an issue within in this country. Let's have a little look.
And what I worry about is the threat from within, the retreat of Europe from some of its most fundamental values, values shared with the United States of America. In Britain and across Europe, free speech, I fear, is in retreat.
OK, well... I mean, Peter, people don't like hearing it, though. Peter, we're going to have to leave it there, though. But thank you so much for coming on so early in the morning on a Sunday. Former police detective Peter Bleksley there.
Thank you, mate.
Reacting to the news overnight.
Yeah, thank you, Peter. Always a pleasure to have his views.
Michael, what do we know about this incident and how's the reaction?
Well, the number of people injured has increased. There's actually 5 people that have been injured. 2 of them were seriously injured. One of those had several, in fact, multiple knife wounds to the neck and was operated on overnight and is in intensive care. They say, the police are saying that there's no clear motive yet, but there have been several reports that said that the man was shouting Allahu Akbar as he ran through the streets in the town centre, what is a big tourism region, with a knife. You've got a local hotel worker saying that the guy was laughing as he attacked people, described it as a bloodbath and horrific. His staff locked people in the restaurant in order to protect them as a lone police officer, as can be seen in some photographs, managed to point a gun at him and then disabled him. And she's seen in those pictures arresting him on her own. So she's been praised. Also praised, incidentally, is an Afghan delivery driver who apparently saw what was going on and ran the guy over and disabled him, in allowing the police officer then to point a gun at him and arrest him. So
yeah,
that was.
Well, can I just say one of the things that always, I mean, you right across the detail of all of this, and that's great. But one of the things that always winds me up with these stories is that, you know, people on the left now are going to go, well, we've had the Syrian news stab people, but if we didn't have that Afghan delivery driver, who would have stopped him? Well, for me, that's not the point. Right, time and time again, we have these people doing this kind of stuff in the context. What is the mood like generally in Austria at the minute when it comes to? Are they a bit fed up of this stuff around Europe?
Well, you can see that they are, because the Freedom Party, which had been languishing in the polls in the last election, which still hasn't formed a government, got 29%. And that was largely on the back of the fact that Austrians were wildly unhappy about the asylum politics of the country. In the wake of this, you've got all 4 parties coming forward saying that they're going to act on this. But the FPO leader in the region, in Carinthia, in Angara, said that they've been warning about this for years and no one's been taking any notice. And Herbert Kickl, who's the head of the Freedom Party, said that this is a failure not just at a local level or at a federal level or at a national level, but also at the EU level as well. Politics is not dealing with the issue.
And Michael, just looking up where this took place, Villach, a small city in Austria. I mean, it looks like a quintessentially Austrian, beautiful area of the country. Can you tell us any more about the area?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's a place that's full of thermal spas in the summer, packed with tourists. In the winter, you've got skiing, you've got all the winter tourism activities. I mean, it's unheard of that something like this happened. And then you suddenly had this incident in the afternoon, cobblestone streets. You know, there's fountains. He was actually arrested sitting at a fountain with the sort of old quaint houses in the background as this police officer dramatically approaches him with the gun outstretched. There were helicopters in operation because they believed that there might be others involved. That turned out not to be the case, but they are probing the connections of this guy to see if there was a larger network or if he acted alone.
Yeah. Do we know anything about his asylum status, this individual? Was he awaiting his temporary residence permit I've got here was waiting for a decision on his asylum application? Is that correct, as far as you're aware?
That is correct. Yeah, he was legally here. He was one of those people who had a pen. He actually had his asylum seeker card on him when he was arrested, and that's in contrast to the guy in Germany involved in the attack in Munich, who was a failed asylum seeker but was still in the country, and apparently wouldn't have been so difficult to find because he was an influencer, a fitness influencer.